question, can the strategy for regional resource-based manufacturing help in promoting employment in India? See, in this question, they're asking you, can this kind of manufacturing help in creating more employment in India? Can. So, if you think it can, you have to discuss how it can. If you think it cannot, then you have to talk accordingly. See, in the introduction, it's better if you write what is the meaning of regional resource-based manufacturing. See, resource-based manufacturing means establishing the industries based on the resources or raw material for the industries. Regional means establishing the industry in that region where raw material is available. For example, in India, you can say agro-based industries should be established in the regions where agriculture is more prominent, and mineral-based industries in the mining where more mines are available, and forest-based industries in the forested regions of India. Similarly, marine-based industries along the coastal areas. You can even draw the map of India. And mention, for example, the marine-based industries, like maybe the fish oil industry along the coastal area, maybe the fish oil industry or seafood processing industry. The forest-based industries, maybe in the northeast India, in the forested areas, we establish the pharma industry, the pharmaceuticals that actually can be manufactured from the different species of the trees. Maybe paper and pulp industry, the paper industry, the furniture industry. Maybe you can talk in Andaman Nicobar. In Andaman Nicobar, maybe the furniture industry. Other forested areas, we talk about the various forest industries. Similarly, mineral-based industries, you can mention in Rajasthan, the copper-based industry, and in Jharkhand, the iron and steel industry. In Orissa, the chromite-based industry in Orissa. Then as well as in Goa, the iron and steel industry. In Madhya Pradesh, as Madhya Pradesh has more bauxite, you can say aluminum-based industry in Madhya Pradesh for the mineral-based. Then agro-based industries, maybe where more cotton is grown, the cotton textile industry. In the West Bengal, the jute-based industries, jute textiles. Then in Maharashtra, where more sugar cane is produced, the sugar mills in Maharashtra. Similarly, where more milk production is there, dairy-based industries. Similar leather-based industries or vegetable oil, where we produce more vegetables, maybe the vegetable oil. So like that, the regional means in every region, whatever is the raw material resource you get, based on that you establish the industry, manufacturing. This is called regional resource-based manufacturing. Now you have to explain how this helps in promoting employment in India. See, this helps in promoting employment in several ways. For example, you can say these industries develop infrastructure in those regions, and infrastructure development needs labor. Definitely it improves the employment in that region for the local youth. And establishment of industries improve innovation in that area. It actually enhances the investment. More investment will flow into that area. You can give an example of Jharkhand. For example, Jharkhand has a lot of minerals. However, Jharkhand is not a developed state. It is because the minerals which are extracted from the Jharkhand are not actually used in the manufacturing industry within Jharkhand. If you do that, Jharkhand can be developed. Thus, actually this helps you in decentralization of development. It helps in regional development. Similarly, in the agricultural states, Punjab and Haryana, where most of the labor work in agricultural fields, if you can establish agro-processing industries, the agro-processing industries will move some of the labor from the agricultural field to work in these industries. So it creates additional employment and also additional skilling. It will create skilling and additional employment. Because the agriculture is mostly seasonal based, seasonal employment, hence this will help in year-long employment in the agricultural states. Most agricultural states we find disguised unemployment. Disguised unemployment, where more number of people work in a field than required. So all the such additional labor can be moved to the agro-processing industries. Thus the problem of disguised unemployment can be solved. Now similarly, you can say, see, the entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship will improve in these areas because of establishing of manufacturing. The small scale industries, the cottage industries, MSMEs, most of the MSMEs are already there in India. However, if you develop manufacturing in those regions, the science and technology used by these industries will spread to the MSMEs already existing in those regions. Thus, MSS will become stronger and will create more employment. It will create more employment. And you may think why you have established within that region the manufacturing. There are several benefits because of that one. Number one, it will reduce the cost of transportation. The resources that you extract from a region no need to be transported. Hence, the transportation cost will reduce. Transportation cost will reduce. The mobilization of resources will be easy. The mobilization of resources will be easier, and hence the logistics cost will reduce. Therefore, such products will become more cost effective. They will become more cost effective, and hence these industries will have competitive advantage. They will have competitive advantage in the local markets or international markets. Thus, this kind of manufacturing will help in several aspects. Also, if you look at the women employment will increase. The women employment increase because women no need to migrate for jobs. As most of the manufacturing is in the same region, women can work there very easily. Also, you can talk about Niti Aayog report. See, Niti Aayog has made a new strategy for India at the rate of 75. You can mention that one. In that report, they have mentioned how regional resource-based manufacturing helps India, not only in employment, helps in cost cutting, helps in logistics, helps in balanced regional development of India, balanced regional development of India, like development of Jharkhand, and tribal development. Actually, the tribal areas, if you establish the industries based on the forest, maybe cottage industries, it can lead to the development of Northeast India, Andaman Nicobar, and other tribal development areas. So, you have to mention all these things. And mentioning a report, an official report or a government document, or you can even talk about the annual report published by the Ministry of Industry and Commerce. In that also, they have talked about the regional usable manufacturing. Such kind of authentic documents, mentioning in the answer will fetch you more marks. Okay? And the 8th question is, what makes Indian society unique in sustaining its culture? See, the question is not about how Indian culture is different from other countries. No, the question is not about that one. It's about how unique is India society in sustaining its culture. So we have to discuss those aspects in our culture which have sustained, which was continued for a long period of time without any break. How are we able to do that? And what in that is unique for India when compared to other nations? So, first, in introduction, you may spend 2 or 3 lines to discuss what culture is. See, culture essentially contains anything like religion, language, dressing style, your food habits, dance, music, painting, literature, etc. See, the artistic form like dance, literature, music, painting, similar the language you speak, the dress we wear, the type of food we eat, the religion we follow, all these things fall under the culture. So, now come to, in Indian society, what makes us unique in sustaining our culture? See, there are various aspects. Generally, when you read this kind of questions, you will not get any ready-made answer in the examination. So, you have to brainstorm. So, while dealing Indian society, one standard book is NCERT 12th class along with 11th class one, Society of India. After that, when there are any news articles in any newspaper regarding Society of India or culture, you may have to think, ponder over it, and sometimes brainstorm with your friends. Now here, some of the points we can think of are, see, many countries have a single language, a single religion, or a similar food habit. For them, it is easy to sustain their culture. But for India, having almost 1,650 languages, several religions, and diverse food habits, still we are able to sustain all these things. That is one uniqueness in India. So, sustaining several languages, several religions, etc., while still maintaining a national identity and a national unity. That is the uniqueness in India. National identity. Similarly, you can say another unique thing in India's sustained culture is that right from Indus Valley civilization, later on when we are ruled by the Mauryas, then the Kushans, sometimes the Parthians, then Satavahanas, Guptas, and later on Mughals who came from Central Asia, even Delhi Sultanates who have come from outside, and then Britishers who came from Europe. So we were ruled almost like by people from different backgrounds and people from different countries. Though we were ruled by different people, they could not essentially erase our culture. Most of their culture is assimilated in Indian culture, but still we are able to sustain our own culture for a very prolonged time. This is another uniqueness of the Indian culture, the way we sustain Indian culture. So you can say from IVC to Mauryans to Guptas, in between some foreign like Kushanas, Parthians, and then Mughals, in between Delhi Sultanates, and then British. You can explain how, though people from different cultures came into India and ruled India, they essentially could not erase any of the Indian culture. In fact, if you take Mughals, most of the Mughal rulers like Akbar have actually followed more of Indian culture than the culture of their forefathers where they have come from. In that way, they assimilated into the Indian culture. Then you can say another uniqueness in sustaining Indian culture is that we always maintained kind of cohesion rather than fusion. Similarly, assimilation but not extinction, and congruence but not conversion. So these are the important aspects of Indian culture. We coexist. Then you can say that secularism is one of the concepts that India is able to sustain for a very long time. Even if you take from Ashoka Dhamma, how he has maintained tolerance towards different religions. Then move on to Guptas, even Satavahanas have respected the Jainism, Buddhism and Hinduism. Then when you take Mughals, Akbar has maintained secularism. Similarly, when you come to the Constitution of India, presently, Constitution of India preamble has the word secularism. Similarly, the articles in the fundamental rights, the articles 25 to 28 talk about secularism. So here we see secularism is a culture in India which is sustained right from ancient Ashoka to present times Constitution of India. This is another uniqueness in India. Yeah. Then see, even you can derive something from 2015 UPSC mains question. There they said, the first question in the exam says that when the Egyptian and Mesopotamian ancient cultures could not sustain till today, the ancient Indian culture from Indus Valley civilization, most of the elements sustained till today. So that are one of the UPSC questions. From that you can say that some of the elements of IVC we are maintaining even today. So this kind of sustaining a culture from almost 2600 years is another unique thing for India. Another unique thing for India. See, 2600 plus IVC is like 2900 BC to 1800 BC. Now we are in 2020. So it's almost like 4900 years, say 5000 years. So 5000 years we are able to sustain a culture, which is another uniqueness for India. Then there are some negative aspects of sustaining culture also. For example, you can say some of the elements of our culture like child marriage, superstitions, these things are the negative aspects of our culture which are still sustained. Though government is trying hard to eliminate them, they are still there mainly because of illiteracy. So we can say illiteracy is one of the reasons for sustaining of some of the negative elements of Indian culture till today. However, we can conclude by saying that there are some cultural aspects which we are able to eliminate. See, we did not sustain all the cultural things of India. For example, take Sati, we eliminate Sati. Sati is abolished and eliminated. Similarly, most of the progressive things have happened in the Indian culture. However, some things like westernization, Sanskritization, these things have slightly modified the Indian culture. So, you should not just say all elements of culture sustained. There are many elements which have taken a quite, which means they have changed a quite. So, with that we can conclude this one. Yes. Coming to the 9th question, empowering women is the key to control the population growth. Discuss. See, one of the aims of India is to reach population stabilization rate. Population stabilization. Which means we have to continue maintaining the same population that we have now without any kind of growth. It's also called as replacement rate of population, which can be achieved when the total fertility rate is 2.1 children per woman. And this is also mentioned in National Population Policy 2000. Also, National Population Policy 2000 clearly said that empowering women is one of the focus areas if India has to control the population growth. If you observe, Tamil Nadu and Kerala are the states where women empowerment actually helped them in controlling the population growth. So this can be an example and we take inspiration by the remaining states. Now, empowering women, actually women empowerment can be looked at several dimensions. For example, social empowerment, economic empowerment, educational empowerment, political empowerment, and health. Actually, health and social may be similar dimension. Now we will look at each of the dimension and how it helps in controlling the population growth. For example, in social stage, you see child marriage. If India can reduce the number of child marriages, automatically it can control the population growth. Because girls who are married at a very young age has more chances of giving birth to more number of children in their lifespan. That is why we have reduced the child marriages. Similarly, if you come to the health aspect, health and nutrition. Women who take better nutrition, who are aware of their health, generally produces children who have good nutrition. Hence, there won't be any malnourished children. Also, the child mortality rate, neonatal mortality rate will reduce. As the CMR and NMR reduces, then the parents will not try to give birth to more number of children. If you look at our ancestors, most of them have given birth to 10 children or more because of uncertainty in the life of children. Because in those days, the CMR was high. Out of 10, maybe 2 to 3 children used to die under the age of 5 years. So if you are able to control this, in effect, it will give the parents the confidence of having only 2 children rather than more number of children. Similarly, if the woman has good knowledge on how to maintain their health, good health, they have to maintain a gap of at least 3 years between 2 childbirths. Also, they will not give birth to more than 2 children as it will affect their health. Now, if you come to the educational empowerment, women who are literate will have more knowledge on their rights, the women's rights. Similarly, they will have good awareness on the family planning. They will know both about tubectomy or the partner's vasectomy. Similarly, they will understand the importance of having small families, most educated women. Also, they will know the use of contraceptives. It is found that most of the Indian women feel that contraceptives would have negative effects, side effects. However, a good knowledge on that would let them know that use of certain type of contraceptives would not have any side effects. Similarly, if you come for economic empowerment can be by having property rights or employment. See, the woman who has property rights would be more independent, they can take their own decisions and they cannot be dominated by the men, and hence they can actually take a decision of giving birth to 2 children and not more than that. Similarly, having jobs or employment, women would think more about their career growth, hence they cannot give more of their career for giving birth to children, hence they also mostly stop with 1 or 2 children. Thus, economic empowerment helps in controlling the population growth. Similarly, we see the political empowerment. If more and more women come into lawmaking, they would make better laws on the family planning and they'll make better national population policy as well as also they would implement the population policy in the right direction. Thus, if you look at how social, economic, educational, political and health empowerment helps India in controlling the population growth. However, in the conclusion, you can also write that not only the empowerment of women, but some other factors like public campaigns, mass advertisements, and changing the attitude of the male, and improving the health infrastructure, all these things will also go in a long way in helping India to control the population growth. Do you have any doubts? Then, coming to the 10th question, what are the challenges to our cultural practices in the name of secularism? See, this question is a kind of, again, a shock to most of the aspirants, UPSC aspirants, because firstly, they may not get a lot of points in this one. Secondly, even if they have points like triple talaq, cow slaughter, Sabarimala issue, etc., how to present those points within the framework given the question is a difficult one. It's a challenge actually. So now, see how to address this kind of questions. Thing is, you should be able to discuss 3 or 4 issues briefly and explain how they fit into the framework of the question. For example, what are the challenges to our cultural practices in the name of secularism? See, India has several cultures. As we have seen previously, different states have different food habits, different languages, different dressing styles, different religions, etc. So, as we have different cultural practices, when you try to bring equality among these cultural practices in the name of secularism, it is bound to hurt certain cultures. For example, cow slaughter is against the sentiments of Hindu religion because they pray to the cow in the form of a god. However, if you ban the close water, it is against the food habits of certain sections of society. See, here taking the cultural practice of Hindus and some sections, the cow slaughter is kind of against one religion, whereas it's a very common food practice of some other section. Thus, it is difficult to bring equality among different cultural practices in India. Now, with that pretext, you can start the answer. Discuss about the cow slaughter. Then you can say, in India, the Article 44 of Constitution of India, Article 44 of Constitution of India talks about uniform civil code. This also in the name of secularism. In the name of secularism, India wants to bring the civil laws equal or uniform civil laws to different religions or sections of society. For example, the Hindu Code Bill, which is a group of laws passed in the 1950s, mostly to regulate the diverse marriage, inheritance, property inheritance of the Hindus, that happened in the 50s. Now the same thing if you want to impose on Muslims or Christians or some other religions in India, it would definitely lead to hurting of their cultural practices. For example, recently the triple talaq issue. Supreme Court has banned triple talaq, of course, in the name of empowerment of women or for gender equality. However, this also talks about secularism, as the practice of divorce, a civil thing, a practice of divorce has been regulated as per Hindu Code Bill among the Hindus. However, among the Muslims, the triple talaq is kind of against the women empowerment. Hence, Supreme Court has banned triple talaq. But in the name of secularism, this judgment has been given, but it is against the cultural practice. It is actually a challenge to the cultural practice of Islam. May not be all sections of Islam, but certain sections of Islam are against the banning of triple talaq. Similarly, if you check the issue of Sabarimala, see, on Sabarimala there are two judgments. You can talk about the Supreme Court judgment on allowing the women, girls or women between the age of 10 to 50 years into Sabarimala. Though it is done for the gender equality, it is again in the name of secularism. Similarly, the High Court of Kerala in 2018 has given a judgment that people from different religions can actually enter into Sabarimala. This is also done in the name of secularism. However, this is a challenge to the cultural practice, a practice followed by the Sabarimala temple from ages. It is against their traditions. So, this issue actually fits within the framework of the question. Now, see, you have to discuss 2 or 3 lines about secularism, concept of secularism. The Western concept of secularism is that the state keeps itself away from the religion. However, the Indian concept of secularism states that government or the state shall respect all religions and treat all religions equally. For example, the government of India funds the Hajj pilgrimage to respect the Islam. Similarly, the government of Andhra Pradesh officially every year funds the Bhadrachalam, wherein the Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh may have to go to Bhadrachalam and he has to sponsor clothes or certain jewels to the god. So, these 2 things actually show how the Indian concept of secularism is where government respects and treats all religions equally and supports the religions. So, even the articles 25 to 28 in the Constitution of India, which talk about the freedom of religion, are within the framework of the secularism of India. Now, if you talk about this debate between whether it is secularism or appeasement by the government to certain sections, there is a debate that the actions taken by the government are secular or whether they are to appease certain sections of society. This debate is still going on. With this, you can conclude and you can actually state your opinion on whether some cultural practices which are against secularism, can they be actually maintained, continued or not? Well, yes.